Hello, my name is Linda, also known as Tortajala around the internet, and I love creative journaling and all things stationery. And today I want to show you a vintage Filofax that I'm going to be using for documenting my Halloween memories. So you can see that I actually had this old mini album. It's like a scrapbooking project from over 15 years ago. It is very small, like same idea of what I want to do in this Filofax. I just don't like this small size anymore, and it had loose rings, which were getting annoying, and so I will have to incorporate this into my A5 Filofax. And I'm moving up to an A5 size because I have found through the years that this is a size I like for memory keeping. There is plenty of space, but it's still a standard size, and it also fits like 4 by 6 photos really nicely, which is what I normally print, and of course any smaller photos as well. So it just works for me. Now, this is a vintage Filofax binder. I'm not really sure what year these were made like originally, but I do think it's discontinued. I think it's from like the 2010s, somewhere around those years. It's pretty old, but I got it secondhand and it seemed totally unused, like brand new. So there's no signs of like wear or tear. So you can see on the inside, it says that it is a Filofax Regency A5 organizer, Italian calf leather. It's really beautiful. It has this funky sort of ostrich-like print pattern on the leather in a black color. The texture of it looks like there's sort of like a shiny layer on top, sort of like how the Filofax Maldens have like an aged, veiny kind of texture film on top, but this is definitely like more sort of shiny. This binder gave me like spooky vibes, which is why I decided to use it for a Halloween themed binder to document Halloween specific memories. Um, so this version of this Filofax model, it does not have any clasp closure. It's just like binder style. But if you do a search online, there are other Filofax Regency models with like the regular snap like button closure. This binder style, it opens up flat, like no issues, but the cover itself is definitely structured. It's not like floppy or anything. It has its structure like a binder. And if you look inside, it actually has some smooth black leather pieces incorporated in this pocket area here. I think it looks really cool to have like this contrast of the ostrich pattern leather and the smooth black leather. So this left side of the binder has 6 pocket slots. The top part looks the right size for like cards, but these bottom ones are obviously taller, so you can fit more than just cards in there. And then there are full-length vertical pockets on the left and the right side, so 2 separate full-length pockets. Really, this binder has a lot of space. I believe it's similar to like the modern day Holborn configuration of pockets in the Filofax line of binders. The rings are 20 millimeter, and they do have the Filofax logo lettering in them. They're in perfect working order, although it's like maybe a little stiff, very loud and like tight to me, maybe because they haven't been used much at all. So I already have a bunch of stuff in this binder. I will flip through it, but just to finish off showing you this Filofax Regency, on the right side of the binder, it has 2 large full-length pockets here as well. They're 2 separate pockets. You can feel there's like the cloth lining separating them inside. And then there's this like memo pad type holder um, pocket here. It goes through, so you're supposed to slip like one of those little memo pads, I think, in here. And then there are 2 pen loops, top and bottom. Very interesting design. And these pen loops actually have elastic on the back. So they look very sleek with like, the leather look, but the elastic on the back allows them to stretch so you can basically accommodate any kind of pen um, in this binder here. Now, if you have been following me for a while, you'll notice that my channel does have videos on memory keeping because I have been memory keeping for many, many years, even before I had kids, but definitely more once I had kids to like document. And I did start in the very traditional, like scrapbooking world, doing like really big pages, um, what you see in like the crafty stores and things. But I have also tried digital, I have moved to bound books, and I've tried different page sizes as well as different formats from like daily to weekly as well. And I definitely have settled into the A5 size bound book. For my family memory keeping, I do it currently in an A5 Midori diary because I just like having that yearly volume in a bound book. But of course, it's impossible to document like everything in your life, right? You do have to pick and choose, curate, and I often always have more photos, and sometimes there are side stories and things, and not everything is necessarily um, for the audience of like a family memory keeping kind of book. I think that's why we have other journals and other places where we might write out our feelings or thoughts or stories. So I don't include in my family memory keeping everything, and maybe I don't go into depths um, on other side stories. So I do have a lot of like project journals, and each journal type, they all have different purposes and satisfy like different needs. Maybe it's like different perspective or meant for a different audience. It just really shapes like how you create something depending on why you're doing it, right? And it's interesting to note that chronological documentation, like for memory keeping, is very different from themed documentation. um, Normally, when we talk about like journaling and planning, daily, weekly, whatever, it's obviously in chronological order, right? Whatever the frequency might be. But this binder is an example of taking one subject or theme and adding to the documentation year after year. In this case, it's Halloween. Um, and it gives me a chance to use like Halloween things that I might not use like elsewhere. And I think you can imagine, like, even if you document your Halloween in a yearly chronological journal or planner, it's different if you pull out all the Halloweens and like put them in a binder. It's just a different presentation, and it allows you to include also evergreen things. Like if you were interested in a story or a Halloween theme, like things you would commonplace about Halloween, or backstories or something, you can include that in this kind of like themed binder. And also, being a ring planner or ring binder, you can rearrange, collate things, change things like over time. So I think it just fits very well to use like a binder for themed types of journaling. And in my particular case, like you don't have to do things in chronological order, obviously, but just for this particular theme, like it is in chronological order, but the deco and all that kind of stuff might change and morph over time. Um, so just think about like, as opposed to talking about random topics about Halloween or a side story or something in one year, and it might get lost in the mix of your, year-long, daily, weekly documentation. Um, you know, I'm just collating all Halloween things into this one binder. I hope that makes sense. There are a lot of people who do like themed scrapbooking or life documentation, so I'm sure you can find other videos. I will definitely share more as well because I have a lot of journals and binders on a variety of topics. And I realize that um, like sometimes we're searching for video ideas, and I'm like, I just should look at my all my things that I already have and share that. So in this spooky Filofax, I have many years of like minimal entries, and they're very simple, and it's just nice to see the progression like year after year. Especially if you have kids and they're like growing up. My kids enjoy flipping through this as well and just looking at the pictures. So I have to incorporate this mini book into this Filofax as well because I don't want the mini size anymore. But let me show you what I have in the binder. I'll just show a few examples because there are pictures of like other people's kids that I don't have permission to share. But basically, um, I have in the front here, I have a plastic like zip pocket thingy where I put Halloween themed stickers and related deco and stuff because even though I might use them in my other journals, it's nice just to have it all here and all in one place because this is where I would use them the most. So this pocket doesn't have to live here permanently. It was just handy to start with, but my binder is getting pretty chunked up, so I might take this out if there's not enough space. But in the beginning of this binder, I basically started with a picture of me, and this is a filter. I'm not great at makeup or dressing up, but I just wanted to add this spooky photo in because I think it fits well to open up like the whole vibe. And this might be the one time mom's picture is actually in here because I do take a lot of photos of my kids, but I sometimes forget to take photos of myself. Um, so next I have this like October postcard that I got from Pen Paling Paula. And just to preface, I think you can already tell like, this is a Halloween themed album, but I like the cool and like spooky stuff, but not actual like horror scary things. I like the cute stuff, but I don't actually want to get scared for real. So it's not going to be like, gory or anything kind of deco. I'm more on the cutesy side of things. So these like black and white dashboard designs, I printed out. I bought them from my minimal planner. I think they're supposed to be dashboards for your planner, but I just like the look of them. And I don't actually decorate my working planner. So this theme binder, it really gives me a place to like use things that I otherwise wouldn't have a place for. And so I've printed out these dashboards. I have them laminated because I sort of use them as like dividers from one year to the next. So flipping over, the first year is 2013 in here. This is my son, and you can see I've just done sort of like a scrapbooking kind of layout, nothing fancy. I don't always journal a lot in here. It really just depends. And of course, I can't add things over time because this is rings and you can always add in pages or anything like that. The mini book pages that I have are older than 2013, so it's a future project to like incorporate it all in this binder. But just to show you, I have like photo collages and deco. These papers are just printable papers. They're my designs on my Ko-fi feed for my supporters to download and print. And this month it's all about black and white designs, and so I've just used all of them in this binder. And you can see I have the next year here, and it's my dog when he's wearing like a little minion hat of sorts and not really liking it, maybe. So you can see it's really simple. There's like varying page sizes and things just depending on what I felt like doing at the time. And I'm not necessarily creating a million pages per Halloween. In the beginning, when you first start this, it's obviously going to be very minimal, right? Like you only have a few pages. um, but in like for my purposes, I'm not wanting to document things in like super detail because I obviously have my regular family memory keeping already. This is like to see all of the Halloween things together, to see the differences over time, what I want to highlight, and I can add and subtract over time, sort of like, living, breathing, and will continue onward. If you think about how people keep 5 year journals, like you only write a sentence or two per entry, right? Because you just want to see the change and like compare and contrast like over time, rather than doing like a very long journaling like per entry. So I hope that makes sense. That's like sort of what the themed journal is all about. um, so that is my idea for Halloween. So it's sort of chronological because obviously I'm going in order even though I don't have to. I could shuffle things if like maybe I see some pattern or something and I might add in another photo and be like, look, at this comparison or something like that. That's just an idea. But for now it is chronological just because it's easy to add in over time. So um, let me skip some to go ahead. Like this is 2017. You can see it's a little more decorative, but still simple. Like I'm trying to keep it minimal because I don't want it to be like a chore or anything to add to this binder and keep up with it. Um, Normally, I tend to like over decorate, like go baroque and like fill up all the spaces. And so this is actually like minimal for me. Going ahead, this is 2018. And again, I'm maybe using like a washi tape here or there, like very minimal deco. And by the way, these year labels, they're done with the Dymo label maker because totally love the retro look. So I'm going to jump ahead and show you, this is my daughter when we made her a donut costume, and this little print here I just added for deco. It's from my printables on Ko-fi, and these sort of like extra pieces, they're like fun to do, because the whole like obviously you're documenting this, but it's also like fun to craft and like do things and deco and, have fun with all of these kinds of papers and things that um, I want to like play with, but they can change over time. And if like this binder gets too chunky, I can even take it out and like eliminate it if I want, if it's not important really. I just like being able to change things up and have like all the pages be separate in a sense. And so this is an example of having something um, that is not like the full A5 size page, right? You can obviously just punch any piece of like ephemera or deco or anything and add it into this binder. So let me show you here. I also have an envelope punched. And so it's like a mini page, and of course it's an envelope, so you can include like a pullout in here for journaling, like hidden journaling. So it's easy to include like interactive elements and more like creative journaling kind of things if you are into that kind of thing. And finally, I wanted to show you here. I have my printable designs printed on vellum paper, and since I'm here in Europe, it's easy to print like borderless on a full A4 sheet of paper, then just fold it in half and punch it to add into this binder, which and it'll be perfectly A5 sized. The effect of seeing through to the other side of the vellum and the other like the designs in the back is just really cool, and I really love it. My daughter totally loves this too. And it's just an example of how easy it is to like create your own decorative paper and add it to your binders. You can just print out whatever you want to use. It doesn't have to be like white paper, and it can be a very simple idea but have like a very stunning effect in the end. And of course, using vellum papers or just regular printer paper, it's also less bulky than like cardstock papers that we often see in like scrapbooking and craft stores and things like that. So I have various papers and cards in here for when I want to add more. So it's all ready. Basically, if I see like black paper or something in the same color scheme or Halloween theme that I might want to use in the future, I just stick it in here. It's nice to have a place. Like as a journaler, I'm always like collecting things, but it can get out of hand, right? Like your drawer of ephemera and papers, it like is hard to organize. So at least for this particular purpose, I have a place where like everything can just go here. The stickers, the deco, the paper, like whatever. And the cool thing about having all of this in a binder system is that you can constantly play around, switch things up, change the decor, add extra tidbits. If it gets too chunky, you can like remove extra things, swap things around. Like I just really like the idea of the rings being so modular and flexible for something where um, changing the order of things and things like that might be okay. And especially for this particular type of theme where like Halloween obviously is once a year, right? So you might have like one or two pages um, to add in a year. So I wouldn't like the idea of using a bound notebook that's like, 100 pages long or something like that, because you're only going to use a few pages and then you have all these blank pages at the end. It just seems very daunting. I just like this whole binder system for these purpose like so much more. So yeah, it's just a different way to put pages together, and I'm definitely doing this more so now because I have a lot of binders and I want to use them. But I had also started to do this when I started collating a bunch of like my art journal pages in an A5 binder because I art journal a lot, and over the years I've created a lot of stuff, but I don't always want to keep everything. And I've had a lot of videos like with my journal show and tell series because I'm going through my old journals and sort of like figuring out, do I want to keep it, not trash it, like upcycle. Um, Over the years, like you just create so much, it's a lot, and you don't necessarily want to keep everything. I mean, some people like they're just starting out, it's been a year or two or something, but if you've been doing this for like 10, 20 years, like it's a lot of paper and stuff, and not everybody can keep that much stuff. So I'm definitely curating, only keeping what I want. And it's also a constant process. Like you might keep a bunch of stuff, and then the following year you add more, and you might like get rid of more stuff, you know what I mean? So like adding, subtracting, whatever you want. So this binder system really helps with that. Um, and in the very back here, I just have some papers and supplies that I stuck in here, more things that I might use. And this sheet of paper with the A5 holes already punched, I actually use this as a guide to punch holes for things that I want to add in this binder. And so, like, I have ring binders, right? So I have this small, like, the Rapesco punch, I think, that I think everyone uses for their like ring binders, right? To punch holes. It's pretty easy, to buy on Amazon and use, but this might be an unpopular opinion because I don't like this punch. I mean, it punches fine and it does the job. I use it for mini pocket and personal size, I guess. And the reason is because you just have to set it into position and it's gonna punch all the holes at once, right? So even if you're a little off, like in personal size, even if you line it up slightly off, it's still gonna fit in your personal binder fine, even if the paper might be like slightly, misaligned with the rest of the pages in your planner, right? But it'll work fine as long as you punch all the holes. But for the A5 size, you have to do the thing where you like flip the paper upside down because you're actually punching three holes at a time because the distance of these like sets of three holes are different for the A5 size. I literally had to like find a YouTube video to learn how to do this because the very first time I did it, it was not clear like how do you punch A5. Um, so that means you're like punching three holes at a time and using the A5 size like guide and paper size, right? So the problem is if you're just slightly off, if you like bend the paper a little, because A5 size you're getting like really large, right? Then it's not going to punch it in the right spot. And um, even if you're following the guides, like you might be a millimeter or two off or something, and that's going to make it so that your pages, they're not going to turn smoothly if the holes like three of them are correct, but then the other three are like a millimeter or two off, and it's sort of like rubbing on the rings, right? Obviously, it's fine if you're an expert and you can punch perfectly every single time, but I make mistakes and it pisses me off because I just don't like it. I wish there was a large version of this that fits the A5 size so that when you punch, you're punching all six holes of the A5 size at the same time. Because, like I said, even if you're off, but the six holes are in the right position to put in your binder. I don't know if that makes sense. The reason is because if you're using a perfectly A5 size paper, then you can follow their guides, flip it upside down, and do like line it up and it should work properly. But what about when you have paper that is slightly larger or smaller? Like you want to be able to like punch all six holes because you might be using only like three and one, or you have a bigger than A5 size piece of paper and you want to punch like the A5 size hole so you can add it in your binder. But if it is bigger, if you do the upside down flipping thing the way that you're supposed to use this punch, it obviously the holes are going to be off, right? Because the paper is not actually A5 size and you're trying to line it up using the A5 size guides. It's like a whole thing. Anyways, I hope I'm explaining it properly. But because in my creative art journal binders, I have papers of all kinds of sizes. So that's why it's an annoying issue for me personally. If you know of a better punch, please let me know because I would totally swap this out for a bigger one that could, do all the things. Um, yeah. So the reason why I have this guide here is because I've resorted to just using a one hole punch and just doing it by hand because it's easier to understand. I can see like where the holes are on the paper and position it the way that I want. Uh, Only problem is that my one hole punch, it's a smaller diameter hole. So that sometimes still causes issues because again, I might be a millimeter off or something. Anyways, it's a minor issue, but it is an annoyance. Um, yeah, that was like a punch tangent for you stationery nerds there. But yeah, that was just a look at my Halloween binder. It's super simple, but I like seeing memories grouped by theme or topic as well. It's something that Stacy Julian in the scrapbooking world has talked about. I think she like started it or something, because everyone like scrapbooks chronologically, right? And she sort of started like the whole no, it's by theme. Um, and because the scrapbooking chronologically makes it seem like you're forever chasing time, right? Like you're never going to be finished. But scrapbooking by theme or topic, it's it's more like it's just different, a different approach, a different way to document. So if you think of a theme or a topic, you can just document or journal or reflect on your memories in an entirely different like perspective or way. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed looking at this vintage Filofax Regency and my Halloween theme binder. I obviously still have lots to add to this, but thank you so much for watching and supporting me here. I hope you have a great day, and until next time, bye.